Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Ms. Muckhouse.
Here.
Mr. Olson. Mr. Walker.
Here.
Mr. Perkins.
Here.
Mr. Rastegar.
Here.
All right, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? All right, seeing none, moving forward, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from February 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right, on to the monthly activity and financial report. Cody, Stephanie.
Madam Chair, directors of the board, thank you for the time today. Want to do a quick introduction. We have a new team member in the room here that's sitting with us. So Tasha Ennis has joined us from payroll. So the finance team is officially up to a total of five and a half at this point in time. So we are very, very happy about that. So Shannon, who we've hired a couple months ago, had an accident, had to take some time off, is back in the office as well. So this week we've got a full finance team and I'm very, very excited about that. So nice job to the finance department, and they seem like they are a great group of people that I'm looking forward to working with.
Who's the half?
We have
We have a part-time
Okay.
position, yeah. I'm the half, no. I'm kidding. It's a part-time food and beverage server
that's
who
good.
is a BSU student with a major in finance and was wanting to get some accounting
Got
experience.
So we're using him front desk kind of help as well as assistance with the finance team on that. Get some help with the school. Couple just February highlights real quick. In particular, just got a couple photos here. Idaho Humane Society Wine, Women and Shoes event was hosted last month. That's a fairly large event. That's our AD team that set that there. Nice little picture from the scissor lift on the top left. And then Idaho Education Technology Association, IETA, also was hosted last month. That's a really great event that continues to just grow and really bursting at the seams for the building as far as the amount of space that they use and what they use within the facility. So as I've mentioned, several of the past couple of months, in particular, those local events really starting to burst at the seams on some of the building, the size of the building. So that's something just to pay attention to. I'll go right into the monthly events report.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it mainly, is it meal space, general
A
session
little
space?
combination of everything. I mean, their total attendees are 1,850. So when you take a look,
Okay.
meal space is also, but the amount of activity space that they need for trade show, breakouts, all of it all together, they could grow that event even further with more space for sure.
Was the main gig basically like an esports arena that you guys?
That's what that was on the last photo there. They used an esports arena. So there's a theater set that's 130 right below us here. And then they did some esports with screens up on the stage. Even in the back of the room had like 2 race car setups for some more esports. So they kind of turned the junior ballroom into that. And again, the rest of the breakout space is obviously for education side, the main trade show room and general session and the big ballroom, and even using East.
And our in-house IT resources were able to serve all their needs?
Correct, yeah.
Nice.
I don't know about all. We might have supplemented some from a Valiant or somebody else, but I would, for the most part, yeah.
So this is where we could potentially use a campus concept to grow it, right?
Correct. Yep.
Especially with the esports, because isn't VSU just down the street? Don't they have an
Yeah.
esports arena?
Yeah.
Right?
Now, from their attendee base, I haven't asked them that question if they would be comfortable with that, but that's kind of the concept that we've been talking about from the sales side with the event side, is to see what we can do to, even when we're lacking the number of space, can we use that city concept or the campus concept? Total number of monthly events to report. We had 28 total in January of 2025. We're pacing really well. So that one on the right side is just your forecast and actual events. Obviously 28, I had forecasted 24. We were behind by 1 event up until this month, and now we're back, or no, we were lacking 1 behind, and now we're 3 ahead because I came in 4 higher than what was forecasted. Again, continuing to do the best I can, but I'm excited to show you some of the forecast numbers today from the budget side, because it's something I'm very excited as the data comes in. My team's laughing at me because I'm a nerd for this stuff. So on the banquet side, we did 12 banquets, 4 conventions, 6 meetings, and 1 social event. And then the number of attendees for the largest events are on that right side there, with IETA being the largest. Leadership Idaho Ag, obviously over 1,000. Lunch for Literacy, a large food and beverage lunch event for 782. And it goes down from there, but still some substantial food and beverage pieces of business. And I'll get into that a little later in the report. As far as total daily attendance, something that we can't really control, but we do report on. The prior 2 months, we had been over budget and also over the prior years. We just noticed that February was a little bit down, but not much from what the forecast was at this point in time. We had over 10,000 attendees come through the building last month alone. Continue to be very, very proud here, because this is one that each month I keep just getting a little shocked that I have yet to see a 4, a 3, or a 2, or a 1. This is our overall experience rating from what we send out to our clients. We're seeing about a 34% return rate, which is what we historically see on these. And we're still batting 1,000 at this point in time with 100% coming in 24. Last month I reported 17 events had responded, 7 more came in last month, and that's the number we're sitting at today. So the team is very, very proud, and I keep just waiting for the other shoe to drop on that one, but keep riding that wave. Market strategy. Again, Ali couldn't be here today, just so if you got any questions, I can funnel them or try to answer them the best I can. But the metrics on the left are in the next slide, so you can kind of just look at those are our goals. But as far as for the last month alone, we were able to get Red Aspen confirmed a convention for 2027 and estimated about 1,700 room nights. Again, a good piece of business for economic impact and revenue. Election Center Sarah training confirmed for July of 25. So again, still getting stuff booked into July on the sales side, which is nice to see, with some substantial room nights and some revenues as well and economic impact. Spoke about this in the prior months. We're continuing to monitor impacts on events related to that executive orders that have come down. We continue to have this as of 3/6/25. We're estimated room nights that we've lost according to what the clients are telling us is why that they can't move forward with booking would be about 2,130, revenue of about $250,000, and estimated economic impact about 1.3 million. So it is nothing's to just shy away from or not to report on, but it isn't something that's going to drastically impact our ability to be successful this year, is what I'm noticing.
Are you seeing a leveling off?
Yeah,
And
so
that
it's quite
initial-
quieted. We saw a whole lot come out in the last 2 months, and now it's been a couple trickles and questions about things, but people are also holding off, I think, before making final decisions as well for future stuff. So it might continue to increase. I think they're just waiting for some clarity on some of those EOs.
So on some of the ones that you're tracking to book, they're holding off.
Correct, yep. And that's what that number is that we're
Okay.
recording there. These are the sales goals that were in that far left side of that purple kind of folder. But again, as you get into these are each column here, just to kind of show you what these are reporting. This is future booked economic impact. The goal at 17.2, our current month, the year to date prior. So we are pacing a little behind, and that's just something to pay attention to from that side. If this is the first time in the past couple of years, these reports have really shown that teal being higher than that purple number. So this is that leveling off that we've talked about. This is something the industry is seeing across the board. My counterparts at other convention centers are seeing this as well in other markets. So the new norm is that leveling off is what I'm hearing from most of the market. Future booked revenue, same kind of story, just slightly pacing behind from prior year. Shows where our total year to date is. So from a goal perspective, we're still pacing well, being a quarter of the way through. But overall, there's still some opportunity to continue to grow in those areas. And then the far right is obviously your future booked room nights, same kind of story, pacing a little bit behind, but year to date from the goal side, we're still doing pretty well. That's what we've kind of forecast. On the operational side, we've had a couple updates. We got some new printers come in as a capital project. Those are on about every 3 to 5 years. I think we got about 5 to 6 out of it because of COVID, some light usage on those. So we continue to try to be as fiscally responsible with the capital assets as possible. But technology is one that you don't want to keep going, especially printers and things like that. Computers change the way that they talk to each other. Some new technologies come out, so it creates some challenges there. We were able to, when it says hired a new event coordinator, we actually promoted Taylor Beagley. He was our operations coordinator. And so we had an opening for an event coordinator position. That opening came from Lauren Hamilton's promotion. And I say promotion, but she got the executive director role for Downtown Boise Association. She was an event manager, and so we promoted Pam Zuhoff from within. That was the event coordinator role, moved her up into an event manager role, and then we were able to move our coordinator. This is just something I'll speak to the board about culture-wise. I'm a big believer, obviously, somebody that pretty much grew up in this facility. A lot of it's a merit-based promotion type of environment here in particular. We hire a lot of part-time people, and to get full-time, you kind of got to prove that you can show up on time, you're going to be good with customer service, taking care of our clients and being a good team member. And then they earn that full-time, but that's opening doors to continue to see growth within the organization. A lot of the skills and knowledges that are learned within an operations department, working with clients, can be transferred over to a planning type of role for event coordinator and event manager. So this continues to be a great success for us and a great story as we continue to promote internally several people within the organization. The event managers attended the wedding expo. So again, just trying to drum up a couple more local business on our dark days or days that we might have some availability in some of the rooms. Not very many of them, but we're continuing to try to make sure that those are getting filled. And then we successfully, this is just a note to the operations team, what they were able to, and this is more than the operations team because this was everybody in the building, including admin coming out of the front office. We had an event where we lost lighting control over at Boise Center East just a few hours right before the event started. And we had the ballroom over in West somewhat set up to where we could quickly flip. Basically, we relocated the entire 500-person event from the East Ballroom over to the West Ballroom. And we did it in about an hour and a half. It was probably an hour. It was pretty much ready to go at that point in time. So it just shows the nimbleness of the team and the flexibility of our space. The client was very happy. We didn't have to offer discounts or anything because they got an equatable space for that change. So very proud.
Why did we lose light?
It was just a technical glitch, so it was losing lighting control from the wall is what it was. So there's a dimmer rack up in the, I'm going to speak outside my own knowledge here a little bit, but somewhere we lost control between the dimmer rack and it talking to the network. Again, on the food and beverage side, front and center, which is Boise Center's in-house food and beverage. We served over 4,300 guests just in February alone, so it was very busy on food and beverage side. We tried out some new custom desserts. That's what that photo is on the left. And then Lunch for Literacy, we served over 782 meals as the largest food and beverage event that took place for a sit-down meal. To get into Boise Center operating revenues, again, fiscal year to date, budgeted is at 2.89. Actual year to date, we're at 3.05. So I know this was one that as I was working on with the board and trying to give you guys a very clear picture of what I was forecasting this year, and that variance a quarter of the year through is closer than I've ever seen it to actual. So I'm happy with what we've done on the team side there. Again, we budgeted just about $1 million for February and came $3,000 short of that. So continuing to use that historical data, a lot of the systems that we've got that can help us with forecasting continues to pay off. And we're continuing to see those numbers come in very close to what we've forecasted and budgeted. Gross profit margin continues to come right in pacing with the goal of at 20% for the fiscal year 25, and we're sitting at 21.8. And again, that's kind of right in pace for those last couple of years minus COVID's glitch. Now I'll speak to just those in the room. You'll see those higher percentages on the far left side there. That change in those percentages are mostly reflective due to capital expenses. The threshold for what could be counted a capital item for anything over $1,000 was being capitalized if it was something for the building or repair or maintenance of that nature, and we upped that threshold to a minimum of $5,000. So more things were hitting our repairs and maintenance. It's on the expense side that caused those numbers. So the historics of this is just something that's very similar. It's just the way that we're reporting it a different way. Economic impact, something I'm very, very proud that we continue to see pacing on this, as well as the actual came in February higher than 2024, or no, sorry, a little bit lower than 2024. But overall with December, obviously Festival of Trees fell into December of this year. So that's why it's much higher than the prior year. We'll see that again next year. But so far the February economic impact was 3.75, our economic impact goal of 50.8. And again, we're pacing very well for that as well, hitting that mark. Just a few district updates here. You guys will hear from them just here shortly, but I've got Johnson Consulting joining just as an introductory call today, but they will be on site at the board meeting next month. And then we're going to be doing stakeholder engagement. We've already started turning over some data on that feasibility study. So they've asked for some historical data. We've started loading that into a Dropbox folder. So it's like the last 5 years of revenues, some studies that we've done in the past, attendance reports, things like that are all getting populated so that this Johnson Consulting team can start doing the feasibility study. But again, really the engagement will start picking up this next month, as then they'll be out on site to give a report to the board at the April board meeting. I've engaged owners, and this is several different areas. I've looked for owners rep services, can cost a lot of different stuff for the aquatics parking lot. I've pinned down LCA at this point in time. ZGA was somebody that we reached out to. They were an owners rep prior when we were building the aquatics center. They do not have the ability right now to take on that extra work, but they pointed me to LCA, who I thought actually would be a good one. And they did help on the design build originally with Pat. So they have a lot of the same connections and relationships. So I'm going to engage them for the owner's rep, and they want to do a design build, and I'll have more to come on that by next meeting. But this has been a moving target and a little bit longer taking than what I anticipated. And so I apologize for that, but we're doing it right. And I believe that's what
And so do we need to do procurement with them, or is that like
the design build process is a procurement process. So yes, they would go out on our behalf as an owner's rep. And
But I mean, to
procure.
engage with LCA.
No,
just
that amount is not
Okay.
qualified
Okay.
for it to go out to bid. I went and got 3 quotes basically, so I kind of fit the procurement model, but it wasn't required. So
And then they're gonna get everything ready, engineering and all that stuff in order to.
yep, there's civil engineer. There's a lot more to a parking lot than what I originally had my head wrapped around. So convention centers is not quite the same as a parking lot building them. District Board candidacy deadline was Friday, March 21st. We currently have 5 candidates that came through and that have been certified. Now, when I say certified, they're certified from the Ada County Elections Office. My part now is next until I have till the end of the week to certify them as from the clerk of the district. So I will be doing that today, tomorrow, and getting those just sent over via email to the Ada County. And then at that point, it's on to the election. So we do have 5 candidates. I know 2 of the candidates are here in the room today. And then I'm gonna Danielle's last name, I do not have off the top of my head. Horace, okay, so we have Danielle, Sophie Sestero, who's in the room, and Amy Pollard Tyler, also in the room, are all certified now as candidates for the district board.
And so what is it you have to certify on your end? Is it really just
It's
signing the forms?
basically, it's
Okay.
one more last form, that's my signature and a couple check boxes, making sure that I basically check off their certification process from Ada County Elections, as well as verifying address.
Cause they've done all the signatures and address.
Correct, that's all been completely certified. And I'll let Shay speak to this one, but last month I had a chance to meet with ULI and the Developers Product Council presentation. Got a chance to speak about kind of with several, if not, I don't know, 15 to 20 different developers, hoteliers, all across the board in the room there. I probably had 6 to 7 slides and I spent an hour to an hour and 20 minutes talking and answering questions, but I'll let you kind of speak to how you thought it went.
Yeah, it went great. They had a lot of good things to say about Cody getting up there and presenting and how knowledgeable he is. And this is a group of people that they've built part of downtown and they're very engaged, and they peppered Cody with all sorts of questions on it. Multiple hoteliers were in the room asking questions about, how we're doing things, where's our next project, what's going on. And Cody did great at every step of it, and they really enjoyed it. I got good feedback afterwards that he doesn't know about either. So it's good.
And I'm assuming this is a group you'll continue to,
Yep, they've even said that they would be willing to help on the stakeholder engagement as we continue to go through the market feasibility study. So I've kind of identified them as a potential meeting with Johnson Consulting next month. And I've started to put together a tentative schedule for all of that process for meeting with the stakeholders. And we're gonna have the Johnson out for a full 3 days is the plan. Obviously, the first day is gonna be board meetings because that's the board meeting day in April. So that'll take up a good half that day, but the other 2 days will be very much stakeholder engagement. And continue to meet with our team on questions about data and our history. Okay, really from the lodging room revenue side, this is just a kind of a static, not static, but it shows, this comes out of the STR reports, the Smith Travel Report, which shows you here what the lodging room revenues were for Group 1. Now, what I have identified for Group 1 and Group 2 in the STR report is the way Pat had it filtered for Group 1 was mostly Boise, and then Group 2 was Ada County. What I did confirm with STR, because we've identified a few hotel properties that weren't showing up in Group 1 that I know are in Group 1, or what I think should be in Group 1 for more closer to a district report, are showing up just in Group 2. So what we're starting to do is identify those that should be in Group 1, because I want Group 1 to be as close to the district boundaries as possible. But Pat originally just kind of set them up as Boise being the kind of delineator. So some of this data I'll go through and update when we get those new properties into that data for Group 1. But there is some additional properties that we've identified that weren't showing up in Group 1. But for the most part, Boise is the district boundary, so I understand it. He did have properties like the Riverside added, just showed Boise's address on that, but that was confusing. But they've told me as long as the hotel is inside of Group Block 2, meaning it's in those properties, I can pull any ones and choose which ones I want to
well, and you
populate.
just collect all of Garden City, because all of Garden City is.
Is in that, exactly. So, yep.
So,
So we're missing a couple properties that I kind of thought were in that report, but now that I've identified how that is filtered, this was from probably 10 years, because there was somebody out of the back end of the SDR. When I started asking questions, said, hey, what's wrong? I worked with Pat on this probably 15 years ago and it hasn't really changed. And I said, well, I've got a couple properties that I know should be over on the Group 1. She said, well, Group 1 was really just City of Boise is how we had it filtered, with a couple Garden City properties being added over into that. So we're going to get a little bit more detailed and finite with the report. But I'll make sure I update these numbers. But the lodging room revenues, as you can see in February, were higher than the prior years, and continue to see that trend this year with that orange line coming in a little bit higher. And this is Group 1. Lodging room demand, same kind of thing. So you're seeing the revenues go up, but the demand is fluctuating. 2022 was probably obviously a high watermark there. Still a lot of COVID travel that I know the district kind of shifted some of the funds from marketing to more of leisure travel. And again, that 2022 number, I think you're seeing that lodging room demand was related to a lot of places were closed down, and Boise and Idaho were a good place to come get away from your stuff. Lodging occupancies and ADRs, so your top number here is just your ADR, again, and they're pacing very, very similar. With that orange line being the 2025 year, and then your bottom line being occupancy. So these are two that we've noticed that follow right along the line with each other. Obviously, things like Far West Soccer can cause some numbers to jump up in June, but for the most part, they're following a very similar trend over the last couple of years. And then 23 is just right in there. If you added that line in there, it looks almost right over the top of each other with a slight amount of variance. So it's a month to month, kind of just shows you the full year and then where we're pacing for this year as far as ADRs. And then this orange one, which I can highlight that, sitting right on top. And that's occupancy on that bottom line.
And we don't have Far West this year, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Or yes, we do.
Yes,
Yes,
22.
25. Sorry, it's
President's.
President Cup.
President's Cup, that's it, yeah. And then this is a static slide that I do this each year to show kind of where we finished off and then where I'm forecasting based off the data I'm looking at. And it's just kind of the average for the year. You can just see for the whole ADR when you take a step back where it's at and where these numbers lie. So 2024, you can see kind of occupancy is just shy of 70%. And ADR is about $150. Questions on the ADR side?
Questions? Stephanie?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, esteemed board members. Your financial overview, I'm sorry, I'm hoarse, I'm congested. I am exhausted and done training, so I'm gonna have Cody speak to some of this, but as we always bring to you this fabulous Excel spreadsheet here, our revenues for the Boise Center year to date are just a little over 3 million. For the district, we're at 2.3. You see your expenses, again, Boise Center at 4.7, and your expenses for the district, 139,000. You can see your revenue minus your expenses and what the budget is. I absolutely despise this overview. We are breaking it down. And so Cody and I have had several conversations, and we were just going through this. So this is what it currently is. And we'll be breaking these out in a different manner. I'll show you here in just a second, but.
A couple of things. I've got a couple questions for the board members. Hey, can you
Right.
explain this to me, kind of how this breaks down? And I've noticed that there's been some questions about the variance on revenues because I report operating revenues. This is total Boise Center revenues, and I wanted to highlight that today just with this one slide. We're probably, and we are absolutely, and we've got some new ways of presenting this here shortly. I'll show you. But really, this is including also the Grove Plaza and the administrative rated revenues, which is about $14,000 difference. So the numbers are always slightly off, if you'll notice from what I report in my portion. She reports this, and there's been some questions about that. I just wanted to clarify that's where that variance is coming from there.
Again, yeah, this, just so you guys for back information, this number shows the district's revenues as it relates to the hotel tax collection and the interest income. And you guys see those in other slides as well. And these were questions that were directed at Cody. I need for you guys to know, if you have questions, you can contact me.
Absolutely. And then again, on the expenses side, just showing kind of like, hey, what is coming out of that? Obviously, our normal things that would normally be on an expense side, but I wanted to highlight that depreciation and amortization is also in there of about 700,000. That's showing that. So that's not lost money necessarily as much as this aged out equipment, operations equipment, the building, things like that. We continue to document those, and it shows up in that side.
And that may be something that we actually itemize and show separately, just so we can compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, instead of that 700,000 being in there each month and kind of skewing the expenses to where you're looking at it a little more realistically. The district's expenses mostly are consulting, marketing, legal fees, management fees. This is the budget, the budgeted revenues minus the expenses and the transfers. Timing and need for the transfers create a large variance. So depending on where we're at with how busy, and I hate to say successful because we're always successful, but as a revenue generator, the Boise Center is, the less subsidies that are being transferred over. And so you'll see on the transfer graph as well that there are some
Timing of capital projects, when we can get them done. Sometimes it's discounts for conventions when we're trying to bring them here, so those numbers can fluctuate. It's the one thing that both of us have like, there's not a rhyme or reason when you start to look at it. Now, if you step back at the annual, you really get the full picture, but from month to month, we're trying to get into a better cadence with.
A better
She's got
growth
some
with it,
notes on
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So we're shifting, if you guys are happy with this, shifting more towards a graph that allows the breakdowns for each one of the revenue sources. So in this is specifically Boise Center. It's the revenues, room sales, other revenue, the beverages, food, and AV. So it breaks it down per department. It shows you what year to date is. It shows you what the month was and what we have budgeted. So where we're coming in at.
So what I'd like to do is what we're gonna do is do a revenues and expenses for the center and the district in the same way. You guys are comfortable with this way, the way this is reporting. I think this is just easier. It really also shows that where we're at, we're managing the budget very well.
It's much cleaner. It really is.
These
Yeah.
are your main sources of
Correct.
revenue.
Right.
Same thing with the district. So we'd have hotel tax revenues in one column, the other additional revenues kind of as another column, and breaking it out this way. We didn't fully make it out this way yet, because this is what I wanted to show the board today. And then next month, we will have revenues and expenses for Boise Center and district.
And then just let us know what's included in the other.
Absolutely, I can
Right.
break that down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. As far as breaking down the other revenue.
Yeah, just let.
Yeah, this, like he pointed to earlier with the Boise Center, the other revenue was some administrative fees
Yeah.
and the
Plaza.
road plaza and that kind of stuff. So we can definitely break that out further.
Beverage is really the only one that's kind of coming in a little bit higher than what I would expected.
They're drinking again.
They're drinking again, and we kind of had I had data. If you remember during my budget presentation, I had data that said that the younger generations are drinking less, so I was
Right.
kind of getting a leveled off approach, but they're drinking again now.
So I just had a think about this, because you had mentioned this before. Do you do mocktails?
We do, yes.
Okay.
Some of the events will request a mocktail option, like a special cocktail drink that's matching what they've got as a theme or something part of that, and have a mocktail option as well. Continues to be a trend within the industry for sure.
Here are the district's hotel tax collections, February, the 681,000. Right now, we're outperforming the budget by $166,000. This slide also is going to be revamped. These are the transfers. One of the things that we noticed when Cody and I were meeting was January, looks like there was a huge transfer. But then in February, there was a negative transfer. We're not moving money back and forth between the Boise Center to the district. That would be a negative. What it is those a capital transfer, $4,500 for a project, and then the bond payment of $140,000, which is static. I mean, it's somewhere between $138,000 and $142,000 for the monthly payment. That's what creates the negative. There were no transfers from the district to the center in February. So I'd like to just clean this up a little bit to where it's.
And I would say, I don't know if we need to see the bond payment. It's the same thing.
It's
It is, and that's what I
very
remember.
similar. I just like sharing. I mean, I know it's been.
I remember when this slide first got added in, and you kind of you gave Emery a thumbs up, so I kept it as like a,
No,
okay, I
no,
think they like this
edit.
slide.
Because
Okay.
the bond, it never changed.
Okay, yeah, the bond stays static. I think capital and operating, we can do it better, and similar to the way I presented that last one, we could put the data and the numbers below the chart, so you can still have a visual, but it's easier to see it when you actually can see the kind of breakdown from an Excel side of sheet of where expenses and revenues are coming from on that as well, for transfers in this case.
And we do, I mean, just for edification, we do keep track of that on a monthly basis. This information has been pulled historically from the combined financial statements and dropped into the graphs. So it is just a matter of, redoing the graphs to where they are more readable, in my opinion, and easier to understand. I'd like to get you guys, okay, last month, $1 million were transferred from the district. This is what it went to, capital operating, a dollar figure, and then where it's at overall in the year and as a percentage compared to where we budgeted for. So you guys can see that. This is our monthly investment statement. The interest income is usually what everybody's most interested in. It's $51,258 that was earned in February from our investments. And the district cash position right now stands at just shy of $32 million. with cash available for projects, it's 25.7.
And then I think the other thing I think you presented at ULI was that graph.
Yep.
Um,
That's that wheel I showed you.
Oh,
just
the
a
wheel
little
with the
bit.
percentage.
And that's where I
Yeah.
talked about showing something like that, shows kind of how we're distributing the
and
tax
it doesn't-
revenues
It
throughout
doesn't
the year.
change really month to month, right? But showing it,
There's a little bit from month to month that would change, but again, those transfers I think could be a little bit confusing. So I think we're gonna step back at the full year and just kind of almost like a wheel of percentages, show you how much here's what the budget was, here's what we're doing so far this year, kind of in a side by side graph.
Okay.
I think again, those are good improvements from what we've been presenting. So.
I think it just shows the overall health of the district and with the overall health of Boise Center as you know, Cody presents the monthly financials from the center side and then where things are at with the district. So I just think it helps clean things up.
Yep.
And if you guys ever have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I know Cody's, you know.
other thoughts
The
as
most,
far as.
been here the longest, but
She's got the answers now. I'll tell
I
you that
do,
to the
I
board, I
do.
want the board to feel confidence. I know
Yeah.
that there was a lot because she was new in the role, but at
Right.
this point in time, she's able to answer any question. She's got information, the same access to all the information I have. And is very trained up now. I know she's in the middle of training more team
I am.
members right now,
I'm
but
good.
at this point, she's really taken on the full role at
Seriously.
this point. I'm very happy with what we're getting out of that.
And if there's anything further that you'd like to see, please do not hesitate to let me, we'll definitely give you that information.
So any other questions or comments regarding just presentation of material or questions about the numbers?
Thank you. Appreciate the support of the board.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Who seconded?
Cody did. I mean,
Okay.
Chase did.
All those in favor?
Caught me off guard.
Aye.
Aye.
Sloppy today. All those in favor? Okay, all right. It's the spring weather, right? On to other business, legislative updates. Yeah, you guys are almost done, right? Hopefully.
They want to be.
Chairman, directors, executive one. Well, today is the 25th of March, and they were supposed to be out on the 28th of March. I know you're all gonna be shocked to hear this, but they're not gonna be out. Looks like they're gonna, well, we're here today, we talked leadership today, and it sounds like they'll finish up. The speaker's saying we might finish up this week, but the Senate's saying we're not gonna get out in time. We heard also from the staff today at lunch that there are still 20 appropriations bills that haven't even been presented to the floor yet. They're still being drafted. So process wise, they're gonna be around for another couple of weeks. Little comment on the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee this year. We talked earlier in the, when I was here earlier in the year, I talked about the difficulties that process was gonna undertake because of the structure, the restructuring of it. And you'll be happy to know that it turned out to be as dysfunctional as we thought it'd be. The House and Senate chairman can agree on how to move forward on a bill, but they can't get their House committee or their Senate committees to agree. In other words, we've had bills where they came up before the legislative staff bill came up 2 days ago, and the House committee chairman couldn't hold the House members to vote the bill out. In other words, the two chairmen can't hold their committees together to be able to move things out of committee to the floor. It's a mess.
Is that why 20 bills are sitting there still?
That's why 20 bills are sitting down there, still waiting to get pushed upstairs. And that coupled with a record number, Mary, we were talking this afternoon, there's a record number of bills being introduced this year. The House has introduced 675 bills, the House alone. The Senate, I don't know what the Senate number is, but it's got to be around 200, maybe 300. But we have two House members. One House member has 70 bills and another House member has 50. I mean, that proliferation has caused huge problems in the drafting elements of the Ledge Services Group. I mean, you're down there drafting so many bills and they can't get them out. They can't get them to committees. There's a little disarray in the legislature right now. You're surprised to hear that. The key policy issues this year, I mean, they moved forward early and did a $450 million tax relief bill, income tax, grocery tax credit. I believe that was structured to be, I thought Mr. Moyle moved that out, Speaker of the House pushed that out. I think he thought that the Senate would hold on to that bill. There was talk in the caucus, in the Senate caucus, they're gonna hold that bill and then negotiate out the end of the session. And I really think that Mr. Moyle thought it was gonna be somewhere around 200, 250. They did the whole package. They voted all $450 million out. The governor signed it. That's gonna create a budget issue as we move down the road, getting closer to the end of the year. Along with that, there's school choice. They moved on a school choice bill, House Bill 93, passed. That had a $59 million budget. It had a $250,000 implementation fee number. That's already up to $675,200. And folks are telling us that the $50 million they've allotted to that school choice bill could end up running upwards of $400 million at the end as it moves forward. So there's some budget issues that are coming down the pipe, certainly into the next, we'll see in this next cycle. Along with that, we've had January, February, the January and February revenue numbers have been down. March should be out here pretty quick. We'll see what they're like, but you know, if we're starting a flattening or downward trend, these two issues could cause some real anxiety with the legislature this next cycle. They did Medicaid reform. They're gonna try to move Medicaid to a managed care process. House Bill 345, that's been 10 years in the making. We'll see how that turns out. The authors of the bill have said we'll probably be back doing some repair work on that in the 226 session. They've done some illegal immigration, establishing state level immigration crimes, increasing cooperation with ICE. And of course, you always have to have your water bill if you're in Idaho. So there's $30 million water budget moving through, which wasn't going to move through. Governor got involved. A lot of the water users around the states aren't giving you this $30 million to be able to enhance the aquifer levels, and that'll start moving forward. And then we found out today the transportation, part of the transportation budget they call strategic initiative, it's $300 million. It's been cut to 275, and it's pending action in the House. It's being held hostage for Mr. Moyle's holding hostage for whatever the Senate might want to bring across. And that this time of year, they start holding bills up and they start horse trading. They passed launch funding, the governor's launch funding bill for workforce development, $10,000 per student, high school kids. They passed that $76 million budget just a few days ago. And relevant to GBAD, we have two bills that were processes develop local school districts, dissolving local taxing districts, I'm sorry. House Bill 102 was dissolve recreation districts via petition. House Bill 436 was a process to dissolve urban renewal districts. It's a Chobani bill. Chobani's doing a $500 million add-on down there in Twin Falls, and they needed to restructure that urban renewal laws to be able to accommodate the urban renewal district down in Twin. So that bill's going to pass. They just passed that out today.
Yeah, to the House floor.
House floor today. So it's got kind of fast tracked. They all went down and dedicated that last week, and the governor, legislature, all want to this as fast as they can to get that thing, get that addition moving.
So just to clarify, is that a restructuring of URDs or a?
It can, the city has the right to restructure, I think, under this law. It gave them flexibility.
Okay, thanks.
Is that something that CCDC could take advantage of?
I don't know that answer. I can find out for you, Jim. I don't know that answer.
They've had the ability in the past to restructure it once already. I don't know what this.
Then earlier in the session, Representative Britt Rabel from Eastern Idaho introduced House Joint Resolution that put a local option. We talked about that yesterday, Madam Chair. And that had a trailer bill that eliminated auditorium districts. So if the HDR moved forward, they were going to come back and use that and say, well, if we're going to do this local option, we're not going to need auditorium districts. That's all been stalled. Those bills aren't going to go anywhere this year. I think the major issues left right now are college budgets. They just cut $2 million out of the college budget at the college budgets this morning. They'll move to the floor. That should pass, but there's some discussion. They may kill that. They may want to cut more out of the college budgets. There's a real attitude right now in this legislature. There's a lot of animosity towards the universities this year. I don't understand it, but it exists.
There's, I think it's House Bill 230, I want to say, that's got it's a gun related one about habitually open and about spaces that rent space out. I've heard, at least from my counterparts, out at like the Idaho Center, that they aren't concerned about it because they're not considering themselves habitually open. I've asked legal what that means, and I don't know if I've gotten that clear enough.
I don't think the Senate chairman is gonna be
Yeah.
interested in hearing that bill,
Yeah.
so we
No.
hope that it's dead for the year, but we're watching.
Yeah, Senator Guthrie's told us he doesn't like that bill. And he intimated to us a week ago that he's becoming a giant receptacle in the Senate of bills coming over from the House that aren't gonna be heard in the Senate. He's showing he's putting a lot of stuff in the drawer. And in the drawer is our vernacular we use for killing it. That's kind of it. I mean, one of the things that I want to mention is, when Britt Rabel brought forward HCR 5 along with 375, we had the opportunity to step into that and talk about auditorium districts from the Boise side. Every legislator over there has been in this facility. They've always had great experiences here. Your transparency and accountability, it really shows. We're very proud and pleased that we can stand before the legislature and say, hey, this is what the Greater Boise Auditorium District, this is how we see this is how we view it. It has great credibility. And that's attributed to the staff, the director, the chairman, and what they see when they come here. That vision they have of this and the service they get, it makes a difference. So when we went and sat down with Britt Rabel, we went down to Stagecoach and we sat down and said, Britt, and we went through this, and she goes, yeah, I'm probably not gonna do anything with this, but I do want to talk about local option tax. So.
So do you think we'll see it next year then?
What's that?
Will it come back next year?
Yeah, I think they're always gonna talk about local option tax. Jim, as long as Mike Mull's sitting over there, the speaker, we're not gonna have a local option tax. I mean, he is so adamantly opposed to local option taxes. He tells us that every year, don't bring it in, it's not going anywhere. But, none of these guys are around forever. And at some point, that's gonna, I think, it'll break loose, they'll move forward with it. We're also getting there's a new type of legislature moving in. It's more urban, they're more urban influenced. The rural elements of this legislature are starting to dissipate. I mean, we're urbanizing Idaho. It used to be that Canyon County, Twin Falls County, and Kootenai County were pretty rural, not anymore. They're more urban, they're electing more urban legislators, certainly Ada County. But when you start putting those votes together, that voting block, they can carry bills. Those are the issues they're starting to look at.
I'll just quickly recognize, I mean, I got probably 10 calls when that bill first got introduced. They were the first ones on top of it, let me know about it. And so just our efforts, you guys are serving the district greatly, so thank you.
Well, you folks are great to represent, you're easy to represent, just because of what I just talked about. Is there anything else other than, again, next week, they'll probably get out of here. And it's about as dysfunctional as a legislature I've seen in a long time. There's just a lot of, the animosity between the two bodies is really relevant this year. They don't even talk to each other. When they're having these events like the Dairyman or the Cattleman or whatever, if the House knows the Senate's going, they won't show up. Senate knows the House is going, they won't show up. And they're not communicating between the bodies very well. And I don't know what that bodes for the next cycle, but this next election cycle, this next session is very, very interesting because I think we're gonna find out that they overspent. No one's talking about that yet, but you're gonna see that $450 million tax bill. I think Mike Mull thought was gonna be more like 200. When they just ran that through, I think they didn't expect that. I think they've undershot the runway on school choice. And those issues are gonna be costly and they're gonna come in here next year. The revenue figures playing out, downward trend. Anyway.
Are there any performance bills that we need to worry about? I know that in the past they floated those, you know, the content of performances in a, you know, something that we really don't have control
Yeah.
over.
There's been one, but it's also in the Senate chairman's drawer.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the gun bill.
Yeah, it was early on in the session.
Okay.
Yeah, we all need to thank Senator Jim Guthrie. He's from Idaho in the Pocatello area, Gammon. He's awesome. I mean, all this stuff is, you know, kind of wild stuff that comes out of the House. It sits in his committee and he's like, no, we're not gonna do that. That doesn't make sense. He's been very, very, very helpful to all of us this year and kind of kill bad bills.
Thank you,
Any
appreciate
questions?
it. No, I think so. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Cody and Chase, Johnson Consulting.
Yeah, so we'll add in, I think we've got Ryan Johnson on the call. There we go. Got the team from Johnson Consulting, Charlie and Ryan.
Hi. Honored to be here today. And excuse me, I just had my big show time and I blow it. I'm just honored to be here and serving you. We submitted 3 reports as examples of our work. Sioux Falls, one in Springfield, Massachusetts, and one in Boston. The Boston one is very dramatic, but we find that working on projects like these is all a matter of zeros. The projects are identical in terms of size and scale. The complexities are just the same. So the Springfield report really is somewhat similar. It has an arena component to it and a convention center. And we really look forward to working with you on these. John and Ryan will be attending out there. I won't be able to attend. So Ryan's going to pick up the ball. And we just look forward to serving you and being as thoughtful and helpful as we can. Ryan?
Good. Well, thank you, Charlie. Madam Chair and board members, I really appreciate the time and look forward to introducing our firm to you all. And with that, I will pull up just a brief little presentation to kind of outline our process and some of the other topics that we'd like to go over with you all today. Let me get this working properly. So again, just real quick introduction of our firm and our team, and then also, again, going through the approach and scope. And then as Charlie mentioned, some of the other project examples that we've submitted for you all. So again, starting with the project, Charlie's the founder of our company, and he'll be serving as the project executive. Again, Ryan Johnson with Johnson Consulting. I've been with the firm for about 17 years, and I lead our convention and hospitality practice. I'll be serving as the day-to-day project manager, so working closely with Cody and his team as we go through this exercise with you all. And then our associate project manager will be John Fleming. So both John and I will be coming out for the site visit and attending the next board meeting. We also have 11 additional staff members that help support us. But day-to-day, you'll be seeing John and I as the primary points of contact. Again, our firm's been in business now for actually almost 30 years, and our services are listed here on the right-hand side of the screen. But I think big picture, our firm's all about delivering results and really doing a lot of analytical analysis to get to a strategy that makes sense for the community and for the facilities that we work on. And this includes over $100 billion of built projects. Between Charlie, myself, and some of our other staff, we have a very senior staff at our firm, so over 100 years of leadership experience. And we also work on a wide range of projects in addition to convention centers, hospitality, sports, arenas, performing arts centers. So we do this work all across the country and also have a very extensive experience in the Pacific Northwest and the Mountain States. You won't see Idaho on here, actually. So this is our first engagement in Idaho. So I don't know why that's the case, but tremendous amount of work in the surrounding states to you all. So look forward to bringing our expertise on those buildings and their strategies to Boise and how that can help shape the future for you all. Just briefly wanted to go over our project approach. So in addition to really understanding your historical operations, we do a real deep dive into the demographic and economic trends happening in the marketplace. Also look at what's happening in the broader convention industry and how that applies to the situation and strategies and opportunities that we will be developing. And then also what's happening from a competitive landscape in the market as well as the surrounding region. Very important for us to understand the context that you all operate in and who you're competing with. The third kind of area that we really focus on are stakeholder input. So, talking to current users that have left the building, and then also identifying potential new users are really important folks for us to be speaking with as we're developing our market strategy. And then I think the next component that really feeds into our market demand and feasibility work is identifying probably 3 to 5 facilities, whether they're within the region or across the country, that are good examples of what you all aspire to do. And also understanding how they got to where they are and lessons learned for the various facilities that they've been able to develop and how they operate them. So those.
Yeah, and also the creativity that happens in some cities. They really are using convention centers, arenas, stadiums, and those types of products to really place make. And so the contribution that this can have to economic development of your downtown is crucial. And so we want to optimize that and really have that happen. And sitting in your board meeting was very helpful. It really gave us a grounding and got to see you all in action as well. Ryan?
Well, thank you. And I think that's exactly right. These are economic development and tourism drivers for their host communities. So as we're looking at those 4 aspects of your operations and your market, that's really what feeds up and helps us develop the demand strategy and the recommendations for the feasibility work. And then once we have those recommendations identified, then we really begin developing the demand and financial projections based on facility improvements or expansion, and really understanding what that means to the business operations for the Boise Center and also the host community. And then finally, that really leads up to our strategic plan that we'll be developing about not only what needs to get built or added, if anything, but really the right approach to adding that to inventory, again, if appropriate. From a project schedule perspective, really, we've outlined a 14-week study process with 11 different tasks. And really the way to look at this is those first 7 tasks really feed in to tasks 8 through 11. So really getting the project kickoff, understanding historical operations, then also those user groups and surveys and interviews. Really important for us to have connectivity with users and stakeholders throughout the process. So you'll actually see on this schedule here, we actually continue our engagement, not just from the kickoff, but throughout, to make sure that we have a real good understanding of your operations and how users use the facility. So again, a 14-week process, really in the market 3 different times. So we'll be in the market at kickoff in just a few weeks. And then for a midpoint workshop, we'll be in the market to really kind of present to you all some of the recommendations and options that and conclusions that we're coming to. And then at the end of the project, we'll be in the market for workshops and also to present our findings from the research and analytics that we've conducted. So that's our schedule and the different tasks. I don't know, Charlie, if you wanted to add anything else.
No, I think if you could take this down, we can answer questions. We are dialed into the industry, and the information that we'll bring, I think, will be topical. What we're seeing happen is the need for more breakout spaces, lobby spaces, and things of that nature. So buildings are influenced by the demand from these groups, and we understand that very well. I think we'll be bringing that to the table for you all.
Good. So yeah, as Charlie mentioned, he already mentioned these three projects. And Cody, I don't know if you've shared those reports with the board, but if you'd like to do that, if you haven't, that would be, I think excellent background as well.
So this is Sioux Falls. Here we were helping decide a convention center, a USL stadium, or a minor league ballpark. We felt that the convention center would give them more throughout the year business. And they have a small convention center, so we're going to replace that. And we're going to build a new convention center downtown. And it's going to be very similar in size and scale to what you all currently offer at this point in time.
And their current facility also has an arena and a major or a minor league baseball stadium component. And the arena will be kept in inventory where it's located. And then the existing convention center is going to be converted into more of a sports complex for the community, as well as sports tourism. And just a couple other examples. We don't need to go through these in detail, but they're available to you all to read through just to give you a sense of the type of work that we do. And then if you all have any questions for us about the process, our firm, or next steps, happy to answer those as well.
I mean, I guess I just have a point of clarification, because I know in your presentation, you said multiple times the facility, and I just want to reiterate that this is a district
Yep.
study
Yep.
for the whole district on what the strategic needs of the district would be, not necessarily just the Boise Center. So that's just a point of clarification I want to make.
And I think we'll start putting that into our mindset. We'll think
Yeah,
of the district. So
was using the Boise Center a little informally for the district, so apologies for that.
Because they know we have the aquatics facility,
yep,
right,
absolutely.
that we own. So, this something, what else do we add to our portfolio?
and we've seen all kinds of things, hotels, sports complexes, performing arts centers, all kinds of things. So our mind is open until we zero in on the right answers.
That first day when they're going to be out in April, I've got the schedule kind of tentatively working on that, but my goal would be after the board meeting to meet with legal, our bonding, finance on the finance team, and then that way they can get a full scope of kind of the statutes that we operate with under, all of the legal kind of way that the district operates from that perspective.
Questions, comments? Chase, did you want to weigh in? I know you've been involved with this.
No. I think it's pretty straightforward for me. I've heard it all before.
Yeah, Cody, we really look forward to working with you and getting to know you pretty well. So that's good.
Well, we appreciate the introduction and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks.
All right, Cody, election update.
Kind of already, I think, gave it in my
Already
slides. I
talked about
didn't
it.
think of that. I forgot I had added it on here as well. But yes, the final date for my certification is this Friday. I'll get that done pretty much within today or tomorrow at the latest. But we do have, like I said, 5 candidates, and then
What
the
is the
election is
actual
May
date?
20th.
May
Is
20th.
the actual election date. There is a withdrawal deadline of April 4th for candidates if they want to withdraw. So just putting that out there, not that anybody would necessarily need to do that, but and between now and then, if you have any questions, any of the candidates, please reach out to me. I could be a resource. I know several of the candidates have, or I'd be happy to make sure I can explain how the district works and the center works and the whole entity.
And I think you've got some, just how the district and the board members interact with.
Yeah, we'll just want to walk through and make
Yeah.
sure that we comply with all
I'll be sending out some.
all the rules, but
Basically on rules, I mean, obviously as a board member currently, or you're a candidate, I can't use any space at all. So there's a lot of things that we just want to make sure that you guys are aware of and also the candidates are aware of as far as what sort of resources I can or cannot offer to the candidates. So everybody's staying above board. Again, I've got good resources from the election office I'm happy to communicate with if anybody has any questions. And then also I should be able to answer any, and I'll ask Mike if I can.
Great. Anything else? Any questions? All right, seeing no other.
Oh, Madam Chairman,
Yep.
I just want to mention one thing that with
Yeah.
our Johnson Consulting folks, they did mention various projects, including hotels, and obviously
We
you
can.
can't do hotels. So
Build hotels. Yeah, so that's where
make sure
another,
nobody thinks that we magically have powers that aren't in our statute. So
so I think that's what you said, when they come out, then we can really dig.
No,
into
that's
the
when I,
weeds
and that was
about-
to that exact point, because I'm like, no, we're not building a hotel. That was actually a question in the ULI meeting at one point, and I had to clarify, no, that's not what we can do or what we are planning on doing. And so I don't want to get any misconstrued.
Yeah, thank you, because I did pick up on that. Okay, seeing no other business before the board, the meeting is adjourned.